Hi, we're here to talk about how you can build capability of both individuals and teams to deliberately apply their creative potential to key business challenges and opportunities, and to highlight 5 key insights from 30 years of research and experience that we incorporate into our Igniting Creative Potential programs. Joining me is Bill Shephard. Bill, you've had many years of experience in the field. Started with real business experience, applied business experience, joined the Creative Education Foundation many years ago, headed up the whole Creative Problem Solving Institutes for many years, and now joining us at CPSB, you're our lead trainer for the Igniting Creative Potential programs. What do you have to contribute? I mean, what do you have to say about this challenge about deliberate development of creativity?
The development of creativity and innovation is a very timely topic in business. We see it in all the journals and the magazines, and it's talked about constantly. And associated with that, there's also pain points that organizations are feeling as they look to deliberately develop the creativity skills and behaviors of their people. One that we hear all the time is the whole issue of how do I get my people to think more creatively? And if we can use the cliche, think outside of the box. And the classic response to that in most organizations is, well, we'll train them in more tools. Well, there's lots of tools out there, and more tools is not necessarily the answer. The answer is really having a tool set that is balanced. Balanced in a couple of different ways. Balanced in from an operational perspective. In other words, it has the tools cover a range of operations that enable you to stretch to higher levels of novelty or even more developmental improvement kind of novelty. And then also balanced on the generation and the focusing side of all those tools that are out there. The vast majority are on the generating side, and just as critical is focusing. How do we select from among those ideas that are generated? So those are some of the issues that I see happening right now. Tools just aren't the answer. You know, Scott, you also have a long and distinguished career in creativity and innovation, starting with being the director of the Center for Studies in Creativity at the university, and as a researcher and author in the field, many articles and books, but also on the practical side, you know, in pursuing the research question, what works for whom, under what kind of circumstances, producing what kind of results. That's taken you into the corporate world in your extensive work there. I'm sure you have some insights on this question also.
Well, actually, one of them relates to something you just finished saying about the tools and balance. I think one of our lessons learned is that creativity can be applied in all sorts of ways, and not just about ideas, but more often than not, we see really important impact when you can apply the tools purposefully to help groups get clarity, to understand what the real challenges, opportunities, and problems are, and also take then the ideas and strengthen them and develop them and focus them and get them implemented, action. So I think the whole notion is to see the tools used in the right ways, purposes, you know, clarity, ideas, and action. And then to put all of that as a method, kind of a segment, if you will, into a larger system of, it's about the people. So it's, you know, what works, the tools have impact, but for whom? Understanding how to work with different kinds of people and get them to focus on creative accomplishment and creating the right conditions, both within the small part of your team or your project, but also organization-wide. So it is about what works for whom, under what circumstances.
When you start to talk about applying the tools appropriately and creating the conditions that are important and helpful to people to be more creative, come up with the novelty that's needed, you know, the whole issue of facilitation, leadership comes into play. You know, how do you effectively lead groups, and how do you effectively set those conditions? And that really is the role of facilitator. And the role of facilitator really helps us be more productive in groups too. You have research that proves that.
Absolutely, Bill. I mean, one of the things that we go back to is, you know, it's the tools more than just brainstorming, for example, but even looking at things like idea generation. Putting a facilitator in the mix leads to a 400 to 600% lift in ideative productivity.
That's significant.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah. You know, another thing that really makes a big difference is when you apply these tools and the facilitation skills and set the context within a real challenge. something that's really actionable. So we know that and what's best for people to learn these kinds of facilitation skills, the application of the tools, is in a real actionable context. And we do that in the Igniting Creative Potential course. People are put into real situations, real world challenges.
I think that's key, Bill. The notion of taking an experiential approach and bringing their reality to a workshop and not leaving it completely separate or independent, but bringing real challenges and working on them, learning how to make that work in the real world, lessens the gap between the learning and the doing. Yeah. The other thing about the learning and doing gap is to consider the learning in more of a journey perspective as opposed to a single creativity training event, and thinking about how do we support alumni and help them create communities of practice with additional information, access to tools, access to resources and information.
Providing coaching. Those are all important follow-up because it is about a journey. It's not just one time, here it is, now go forth and be creative.
I agree, Bill. If you were to think about the 5 key insights that we've just talked about briefly, and you wanted to share them with folks, how would you put words to those 5 key insights?
Well, looking at it through the lens of the Igniting Creative Potential courses and workshops, those 5 things really have to do with, going beyond tools. Yes, there's a tool set that you learn in the courses, but it's going beyond that, making sure that there's a system involved in that also. It's making sure that tool set is balanced and making sure that the facilitation skills are there to lead to set the appropriate and proper conditions for people to be productive in this kind of a situation. Being able to immerse people in real challenges. So it's not made up, it's not case studies, but it's real world actionable application. People leave the courses with a plan of action, how they can make a difference in the challenge that they come with. And then the 5th thing really has to do with the whole element of understanding that there's before the learning, there's the act of learning, and then there's the support on the other side of learning. It's part of that journey you were talking about. It's so critical. To learn more about our approach to igniting creative potential, visit our website.